Heyo! As I've experimented with more projects recently, I realized that something that gets overlooked often is project management. With smaller games, this doesn't really become an issue, but as your project scales, it becomes harder to find certain assets, go through lines of code, or simply understand what the next step should be when working on a project. For most of my art-related projects, I would simply store everything into a Google Doc or a Google Slide. But this can get overbearing quickly depending on how everything is set up. So today, I want to talk about a couple of things I've done personally to help me stay track, as well as what I do to start planning moving forward. So, back in high school when I had dreams of making longer projects, I needed a way to condense these ideas into something more manageable. During this time, I simply used my sketchbook for planning everything out, as I was able to draw my ideas out on my notes. This was functional for a while, but as my ideas grew, it became harder to manage these ideas and stay motivated. This led me to Google Docs and Slides. Now, I still use Google Docs a lot. In fact, the script I'm currently using is written in Google Docs, but it has its limitations. It handles text perfectly fine, but I've always been more visual, and adding images and resizing in Google Docs is a complete nightmare. Something that helped guide me on the path to finding a method that worked for me was simply looking up different methods of organization. That's actually how I learned I needed a visual when planning and organizing, because looking at walls of text gets overwhelming and extremely boring after a while. Now, to add to this point, if you prefer to have everything organized in a text-based way, then I highly recommend Trello. Now, what Trello does well is help you map out ideas and organize them into their own categories, but where it doesn't work for me personally was after a while, it just becomes columns of text. I know this works for some people, but this really began to demotivate me. I needed a way to mix note-taking with visuals in a nice digital format. And part of me was beginning to think that sticking with Google Docs would be the better option. That was until I kept seeing this program game devs talked about called Milanote. By the way, I'm not sponsored. I just really like this app. Now, I've heard of a lot of gimmick note-taking apps while trying to find something more suitable, so when I was looking into Milanote, my hopes weren't very high. But as I've used the app more, I began to fall in love with it quickly. Again, I'm not sponsored by them at all. I simply appreciate a nice quality product when I see one. With that being said, here's a few reasons why I think Milanote personally works for me. So why do I use Milanote? As someone who loves to look at visualizations along notes, Milanote makes this process extremely easy. The layout is set up as a visual whiteboard, which allows you to add images, text, music, and more. You would think that all of this existing on one board would become quickly overwhelming, but this is where my favorite feature of Milanote shines through. The board system allows you to add categories of information in one place. So let's say you want to make a board for all story related elements. You can create a new board and now you have a category that is used only for story elements. What makes this system even more useful is that you can add boards within boards. So it's possible to create subcategories for projects or whatever fits your needs. Here's how I have my board set up for one of my massive projects, which hopefully I get to talk about very, very soon. But everything is broken down into categories with clear colors to separate them. Any bugs I encounter during development would get added to the left side, and the checklist on the right simply ensures I'm still on task. This workflow does basically the same thing Trello does, but gives me a lot more flexibility with how I want it to look. Which brings me to my next point. What makes Milanote work for me is the ability to add images, video, and audio to your liking and organize them however you want. This helps especially if you're more of a visual person, as walls of text can become overwhelming. What I love about this system is that there's basically no limitations as to where you put these images and how you want them to look. So what I did when first messing around with an idea is to put a bunch of images near each other and create a faux board, just to get an idea of what I'd want. All of these features combined already make for a very useful organization app, but the part that makes it shine the brightest is the team sharing. The ability to share my entire project with anyone of my choosing is something amazing. Sometimes I don't have the time to jot down an idea, and this is where the ability to invite others comes in handy, because they can update items in real time. This has been very useful, as sometimes my girlfriend will come up with a concept that she wants to add to the game. With team sharing, she can upload an image or write down an idea that she has, and I can check it from my computer or even my phone, though I don't recommend the phone version of Milanote. It's kind of lackluster. So all of this is great, but how is this helping me with my current project? Well, I won't get too much into it with this project, as I'm still working on the devlog for it. But it's helping me plan out so many aspects I often overlook with my games, like accessibility features or general quality of life features. I started a new way of working, which involves working in phases. Spending more time simply planning everything out and thinking about how I'm going to implement them has kept me far more motivated than I was before. Sometimes when you're just winging it, you kind of get lost in all of the ideas and art and just fun of developing. But every now and then it's nice to slow down and relax and just plan things out. Although, there's also nothing wrong with just throwing yourself in the deep end sometimes to learn. That's kind of what this entire channel is about. I was never really exposed to anything programming related, so learning new tricks has been super fun for me. And generally, just seeing my personal projects grow and evolve has been super exciting. With a new organization system in place, I want to talk about how sometimes taking old ideas from concepts can actually create an entirely new concept. And that's kind of what I've been experiencing with my new game. Sometimes you just have to have a simple idea and just stick with that. And as I've developed more concepts and more games, I'm realizing that that is what I want to do in the future. Just make things and not worry about how it's done or how long it's going to take me. But of course, I'll go over that in the devlog coming out shortly. And with that, thank you for watching. I want to give a huge shout out to Vanessa, Hannibal, and Khalik for supporting me and the channel. Your continued support helps me create more videos for everyone to enjoy. Also, if you enjoy the video, please feel free to like and subscribe so you don't miss an upload. And if you want to join a community of people that share the same interest as you, there's a link to my Discord server down below. Thank you, and I'll see you next time.